Okay. Welcome to the March 1st, 2021 Jamestown Rotary meeting. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the
United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
indivisible,
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please welcome Becky Robbins, who will give our invocation.
Thank you. Let us pray. Dear Lord, as we join together today as Rotarians and as friends, we acknowledge that wherever we go, we are always in your presence. We pray that our actions may reflect this awareness for whatever our future will bring. If we must face disappointment, help us to learn patience. If we must face sorrow, help us to learn sympathy. If we must face pain, help us to learn strength. If we must face danger, help us to learn courage. If we must face failure, help us to learn endurance. If we achieve success, help us to learn gratitude. If we attain prosperity, help us to learn generosity. If we win praise, help us to learn humility. If we are blessed with joy, help us to learn sharing. If we are blessed with health, help us to learn caring. And as we stand before you today, or sit, help us to learn the value of service above self. May your radiant spirit guide us and our loved ones all our days. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Becky. Any visiting Rotarians or guests? Our speaker, Rob Smith, is here. Fire Prevention Officer, Rob Smith, is here from the Jamestown Fire Department. He was concerned his boss might be Mr. Sundquist here. No. Any other guests? I don't see any in the list. I see some folks we haven't seen in a few weeks. Welcome. We're glad you're with us. Let's repeat the four-way test. Of the things think, say, and do, number one, is it the truth?
Is it the truth?
Is it the truth?
Is it fair
Number
to
two, fair to all concerned.
fair to
Is it fair to all concerned?
Really?
Three, will it well and better friendships?
Will it
Build better friendship.
Number four, will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Okay. So announcements this week are, we recognize our Rotary Yours Recorder Lynn Gruel. Thank you, Lynn. We have a new member proposal, Joanna Dahlbeck. She works for the Chamber of Commerce part-time, very involved in Jamestown events. The membership committee has asked her, has moved her name for approval to the board. The board has approved it. And so if you have any concerns, please let me know over the next 10 days, or Tori or gang, let her know. The club needs two key people. Kathy Benson has been the chair of the invocation committee for a number of years, and she has moved to a new position, and she's not able to come to our meetings, and so she will have to resign as chair of that committee. So if anyone would like to step up to be the chair of that committee, it's an easy one. You got a real easygoing, nice group of people you work with, and they all pick up the tasks as needed. So we need an invocation chairperson, and then a little more difficult position that we need is treasurer by July 1st. So if you have any interest, please let me know. If not, you're gonna have to tie Russ up in July and make him, June, and make him stay. And that doesn't look good for the club. So we need to find a new treasurer. Any committee chair announcement?
Hey, Joni, John Healy, Vision Committee meeting
Yep.
Friday, March 5th at 11. So I'll send out a link to everybody.
Okay. Other chairs, any announcements? All right, hearing any, we'll move into, what happened here? We're gonna ask Lisa Goodell to do her Rotary Y if she is willing.
I am. I'm here and I'm willing. So my
Thank you.
Rotary why starts several years ago, but I will make it quick. So once I graduated from Bowling Green State University with my bachelor's in social work, I didn't get a job, but I jumped in a car with a friend and we spent a month driving cross country. And it was the greatest experience of my life. Some little girl from the Midwest seeing mountains and glaciers. So it was a fabulous trip. And we ended up running out of money in Lake Tahoe. One place to run out of money, but we knew absolutely no one. And we ended up setting up a tent and camping for 4 months while we looked for jobs and got enough money saved so we could put a deposit on an apartment. So we did that, and we moved between Lake Tahoe, Reno, and Carson. And it seemed every time we moved somewhere where we knew absolutely no one and made a life and did things. After being there in Nevada for about 8 years, I applied for a job in California as the program director for an organization called Sensory Integration International that did international training for occupational and physical therapists. So I moved to Burbank by myself, and once again, as you can imagine, knew absolutely no one. Lived there and then Santa Monica, and I decided that I liked the administrative side of not-for-profit work, and I decided to go back for my master's degree. So I moved to Redondo Beach, worked full-time at Sensory Integration, went to school full-time. But once again, when I moved to Redondo Beach, I knew absolutely no one. So it was an interesting move. Got my master's degree, worked there for another 7 years and decided it was time to come back to this side of the world. Didn't really want to go back to Cleveland. So I applied for a job in Buffalo as the assistant director for Friends of Casanova Manor, which was a drug and alcohol rehab organization. Got the job and moved to Buffalo without knowing a soul. So interesting experience. Worked up there for about 10 years. Decided that I was ready to move into an executive position and applied for the executive director position at the Girl Scouts down here in Chautauqua County. Got the position and moved. And this time, at least I had a husband and son with me, but we knew absolutely no one. You see a pattern here. So it was while I was at the Girl Scouts that my board secretary said to me, "You should join Rotary. You will meet a bunch of people and you will probably do better at acclimating to the community." And so I did join Rotary. And it became the best piece of advice and the best decision I'd ever made. I met, that secretary's name was Mr. Andy Goodell. Tori, thank you. I met people from all walks of life. And what I learned, no matter what position you're in, head of a major corporation, head of a not-for-profit, manning a project or a proposal or a fundraiser, you never can know all the answers. You never know everything that you need to know. So what Rotary provided me was a group of contacts and friends and acquaintances that I knew I could call at any time for any reason and ask for help. And it has served me well through all of the positions I have had since the Girl Scouts. It has helped me be proficient, and I hope that in some way I have given back to other people that I have met through Rotary, because it has been the greatest thing. This has been the best move of my life. I've lived down here for almost 30 years now, and I've been a Rotarian for 20 years, and I can't believe I had ever made a better decision than to join Rotary.
That's great.
Thank you so much. Very interesting. Now we're going to move to Sue Jones, who's going to do the birthdays for the month of March.
Yes, we have 7 birthdays to celebrate in the month of March. And number 1 on our birthday list is Doug Conroe, and he's with us today. Doug is the executive director of the Chautauqua Lake Association. He is a retired employee of Chautauqua Institution, director of operations. He was sponsored many years ago, 1981, by Harold Peterson. And that's one of the Rotarians that I don't believe I know. I don't believe I ever met him. Let's see, Doug is a 4-time Paul Harris Fellow, and his birthday will be on March 10th. Next
Harold,
one is our
Harold
dear
Peterson
friend.
was a land surveyor, an engineer and land surveyor who
Oh,
belonged.
really?
Yes, good, great guy.
Yes.
And I'm glad to share a birthday with Spud.
Yes, Spudley is next. He is married to Joni, and you all may know that Joni is very ill, and that is why Spud has not been around. He is her caretaker. He is a retired director of human resources from WCA Hospital before it was UPMC. He's a graduate of Michigan State University. He's a past president of our illustrious club, and he is also a past district chairman of the Polio Plus campaign. He is a 5-time Paul Harris Fellow, and his birthday, as I said, is the 10th of March. Linda Burns, her birthday is March 18th. I can't tell you where she lives because that's wrong, but it's someplace here in Bemis. And I can't tell you where she works because that's wrong. So wherever you are, Linda Burns, happy birthday. She's a graduate of Jamestown Community College, Florida International University in Miami, Queens College in Charlotte, North Carolina, and Centenary College in Hackettstown, New Jersey. She is married to Dan Burns, and she was sponsored by Ken Strickler. Again, her birthday is the 18th. Happy birthday on March 22nd to Donna Flinchbaugh. Donna is now the branch manager of Falconer and Mayville. She has moved from originally Lakewood to then Southside and now to Falconer. She's a graduate of JCC and Houghton College PACE program. She was sponsored as well by Dudley Erickson. And again, her birthday is March 22nd. Sherry Krull her birthday is the 23rd of March. She is the owner of Squirrel Hill Consulting in Asheville. She's a Paul Harris Sustaining Club member. She was sponsored by Lisa Yagi. She's a past president and a 2-time Paul Harris Fellow. Happy birthday on the 23rd of March. And another snowbird, Pat Kinney, down in Florida. Her birthday will be March 28th, and she is a retired government employee. She was the assistant to Stan Lundeen for many years in City Hall. She's a Sustaining Club member. She was sponsored by Michael Bennett, and she has 1 Paul Harris Fellow to her name. Her birthday, March 28th. And March 31st is the birthday of Gail Donis. She was married to, help me, Greg. Yes, you're muted, honey. We can't hear you. Our past club secretary for many years and district secretary, Dan McGinnis. There we go. It came. She's a graduate of Frostburg University and Nick Daniel College. She was sponsored by Diana Meckley. She's retired, and I believe she was in human services at the Resource Center. She is a multiple Paul Harris Fellow and is also in the Paul Harris Society. She is a wonderful donor to the Rotary Foundation. And Gail's birthday is the 31st. We shall celebrate today after I just mentioned quickly, because we had a note from the district foundation chairman asking us to ask each of you to consider donating to the foundation. We know you have been generous on your birthdays, but this year, because of COVID, has been especially difficult for the foundation. And so we're asking everybody to dig deeper, maybe take that money that you spend on coffee every morning and put it in a pot and give it to the foundation. But there will be in the future, in the very near future, some fundraising activities to benefit the Paul Harris Foundation. So today we're going to sing to the Lions because I stuck my head out there and the march is coming in like the lion. So let's go. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Lion. Happy birthday to you. And the winner today of our free lunch is Donna Flinchbaugh. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very entertaining, interesting even. Okay, let's go with Happy Bucks. Who has something good that happened that they want to tell the club?
I got one.
Vicki? Oh, David?
Yes, my
Go
roof
ahead.
stopped. My roof stopped leaking after I gave a man $200 to fix it.
Yay!
Another Happy Buck?
Joni just won to the chamber for all their efforts this weekend to pull off a virtual doors open. They did a masterful job, and kudos to the chamber staff. So.
And that new member proposal, Joanna Dahlbeck.
Yeah, she's included. Sheila Webster, Jacob Felt, who did all the filming. They did a great job.
They sure did. Sure did. Any other Happy Bucks? Happy news? Anybody get a vaccine this week that they're happy about? All right, Sue. All right, Steve.
I have some other happy news.
Okay.
On, I think it was February 27th, we had a whole, like 24 robins around our little red maple tree, you know, where the mulch was there. So how about that?
That's a good sign. Good sign. Yes. All right. Anything else?
I got a Happy Buck. Well,
okay.
First, I was able to get my mom in for her first vaccine. Yay! It's hard to get those appointments. So I was very happy that she got her first vaccine. And then over the weekend, we went to a hot tub show up at the Buffalo, the Hamburg Fairgrounds. And we were able to get a hot tub.
All right.
Won't be delivered until maybe the end of summer, but.
All righty. Let's, if any more Happy Bucks? All right, going once, going twice, sold. All right, we're going to, I introduce Stacy Hannon, our own Stacy Hannon, past president, who is going to introduce our speaker for today. Go ahead, it's all yours.
All righty. Well, of course, we're welcoming Robert Smith today. He's the Jamestown Fire Department fireman. He also is the fire code inspector, and he's very happy to be here at the Rotary meeting this week. Rob grew up in Kennedy, and he now owns a small farm in Kennedy with his wife and his 4 children. They have beef cattle, horses, and honeybees. They raise pasture-raised chickens, and they also have raised pork during the summer. Rob is an Army veteran. He served from 2005 to 2012. He graduated from JCC in 2012 as a fireman. He has been with the Jamestown Fire Department since 2015. He has been the fire prevention officer since January of 2020, and Rob is nationally certified fire and life safety educator. He is also a state certified EMT instructor and teaches at JCC part-time. He appreciates the invite to share his information with the Jamestown Rotary Club about fire prevention today. Thank you.
I'm trying to find the mute button. Hi, thanks. Thanks for the perfect introduction. It's nice to see you all. Thank you for having me here. Couple things I wanted to mention before we got started. I know a couple of you in the audience. I know Mr. Horrigan, I worked at dispatch for about a year when you were still a county executive. You were very, very nice to everybody there, so we appreciate that. It's nice to see you. Amy Roller said hi to me in the chat there. I work on the United Way, one of the funding committees as well, with Amy. So last year was my first year doing that, and we had a good time. So hello to you and hello to everybody. Lisa Goodell, you were talking about your kind of story, and I was intrigued by it. I think kind of to boil it down, what you were talking about is the importance of networking, and you know, just an opportunity like this here for me is an opportunity to network with you all. So it's an honor to be here. I think that it's kind of an underappreciated thing nowadays, the networking. Just the connections you can make in everyday life. You meet somebody and it's a connection. And, you know, doing these types of events, I mean, there's 40 of us in this group. And, you know, now we all can be friends. And if we see each other on the street, maybe we can help each other out. And I think that's really, really important. So like Stacy said, Stacy and Joni, thank you very much for having me. All those other things I do and I've done in my life so far, I'd be happy to come back another time and we could talk about beekeeping if you guys want to, or whatever. I mean, I'm pretty flexible with that stuff. So if there's any topics in the future, feel free, just reach out to me and we can do something else. So I don't do a lot of screen sharing with this Zoom stuff. So just bear with me a second. Oh, well, this is easier than I thought it was. Look at that. All right. So here is my presentation. Let me just move some windows around here a little bit. So yeah, so I'm the fire prevention officer for the Jamestown Fire Department. I've been doing it a little over a year. Some of you may know Sean Tibbetts. He used to do this job before me. He was very good. I'm hoping to be as good as him. Diana and I were talking about that before. But we'll talk a little bit about fire prevention stuff that you might see in your homes or your family's homes. And then at the end, we'll have a QA session and ask me whatever you'd like. So there's my contact info there. This is my office phone number, 483-7597. If you ever have any questions, feel free to reach out to me and I will try to help you out. Just some quick statistics. These are pulled from 2018 from the NFPA. These statistics are pretty much flat over the last 20 years, roughly the same numbers. But 40% of fire deaths happen in homes without smoke alarms. We'll talk a little bit more about the smoke alarms here in a little bit. There's $235 million a year in property damage from children starting fires. Electric space heaters cause 80% of the deadly fires. And in 2018, there was 363,000 residential structure fires, 38,000 industrial fires, 7,500 in restaurants and bars, and another 5,000 in educational establishments. So, you know, we highlight these statistics and we talk about not just the destruction that fire can cause, but the amount of money lost because of things that can be prevented. So the city of Jamestown, I mean, really all fire departments, but the city of Jamestown and the Jamestown Fire Department, part of our mission statement is to have a prevention program, which is essentially what we're doing here. And any opportunities we have to reach out to the public and do these types of events, we are all for that kind of stuff. Sometimes it's just an educational thing so that people just don't realize what can be serious fire hazards. Every 24 seconds, firefighters respond to fires in the United States. And over 3,000 Americans, and this is just America, die in fires each year. 13,000, another 13,000. And you know, just in the city of Jamestown here, we usually have one or so fatal fires a year, just right here. People over 85 years old have the highest rate of fire-related death, whereas ages 30 to 34 have the highest injury rate. I'm not really sure why that is. I'm assuming it's because they're probably in there trying to stop the fire and then end up getting hurt. 309 children under the age of 14 died in a fire, and 87 firefighters lost their lives while on duty. Another almost 25,000 firefighters injured. So again, you know, the devastation of fire is bad enough in itself, but you know, think about the cost of that if that's what you're conscious about too. 25,000 firefighters injured, whereas a lot of these could be.
This is Vicky.
What's that? Oh, thought somebody was asking a question. Okay, so yeah.
Hold on, Rob.
Okay.
Vicky, can you mute your computer? She's on the phone.
Oh, I see. Yep, I got her. Yep, I muted her.
Okay.
I can only see 4 or 5 of us on the screen here. So, anyways, no, that's okay. So space heaters. Space heaters are a major cause of fire. If you're going to use a space heater, there's a few things you really need to keep in mind. You need a UL label on them, and that's part of the New York State Fire Code. Sometimes when you buy things from, say, Walmart or Amazon, or you buy them online, they're not always UL listed. And what that means is the underwriter's laboratory has actually tested these pieces of equipment for their safety devices. You know, if it tips over, it'll shut off on its own. If it gets too hot, it'll shut off on its own. So that we really look for those UL labels when we purchase these things. They should have the auto shut off, like I mentioned, and at least 3-foot minimum from combustibles. A lot of times we rely on the manufacturer specifications when it comes to heating equipment. Certain types of equipment would have different clearances. So if it's UL listed and the instruction manual that comes with this device says keep combustibles 18 inches away, then you can go with the 18 inches. It's really whatever the manufacturer specs are. But as a general rule of thumb, we say 3 feet. And you can see in the picture here, this bed had caught fire. And I think that's a kerosene here. That's probably not really good to be used in the house anyways, but this is kind of a stock photo. I think they were doing a demonstration. That's where that came from. Extension cords. This is something we see a lot of. Extension cords are really designed for temporary use. And by definition in the fire code, 90 days or less. So if you're working on a construction project, obviously extension cords are what you're going to need to use. But what we see a lot of is, and I have to yell at my wife all the time for this, hooking an extension cord up and running it along the wall for a permanent installation of something is not the right way to use extension cords. So again, if you need more power somewhere else, get an electrician, run a new circuit, and do it the right way. Because these extension cords really aren't designed for long-term use. Back to the space heaters thing, they should never, ever be plugged into an extension cord. And I have a couple of pictures coming up here in a second of an actual fire we had in the city where you piggyback and they'll put an extension cord into a power strip, into another extension cord, and it runs for miles. And they're not, the amperage on those wires is not designed to handle that much wattage, especially from something high wattage like a space heater, an electric space heater. So keep that in mind. Plug it directly into the wall if you're going to do that. So this picture here, oh, one disclaimer, I'm sorry, I meant to say this at the beginning. I am on duty right now, and if an actual structure fire comes in, I'm going to have to just jump out and leave. So I apologize if that happens. Hopefully it doesn't happen. But the radios are on and all that. So if you hear some beeping, that's what that is. But anyway, sorry about that. So the extension cords, this is a picture from this was actually a marijuana grow house in Jamestown. And what they did was, can you guys, Joni, can you give me a nod? Can you see my mouse cursor?
I
You
see it.
moving around? Okay, so I'm going to kind of point at things here with the mouse cursor. So this extension cord here was plugged into a power strip into a timer, and then it went, you know, you can see the loop over here where it kind of melted. So this came in as a possible structure fire because the whole house was filled with smoke. Luckily, the breakers, the breaker box did their job and they shut the breaker off before it actually caught real fire. But we see a lot in these older houses where the electrical system isn't up to, say, new standard code, and the breakers don't work the way they're supposed to. And I have another picture coming up in a second about that. But this device here, this is the controller that they use for the high wattage bulbs for the grow room down there. And they had this, and these are like 1,000-watt bulbs that they use. They had this plugged into the extension cord into the timer, which ultimately failed. And you can see down here there was a mattress they were trying to block the room off, but it caught all this stuff on fire. So again, just can't stress enough the importance of not using extension cords for things like this. You know, and you shouldn't, if you are using extension cord, you should inspect it periodically, make sure there's no nicks or cracks in it, because that's what can cause these issues. Electrical fires are real common. We have quite a few the causes. We determine the cause as electrical issues very commonly, as again, in these old houses. In the city of Jamestown, you have to be a licensed electrician to perform electrical work unless it's in the house that you own and you live in, so owner occupied. If you have a rental, it's kind of considered a commercial property and you have to hire an electrician, a licensed electrician. Excuse me. Part of my job here in the Jamestown Fire Department is I'm on the electrical board. So we have a list of all the licensed electricians in Jamestown. So if you ever need to know, hey, I want to hire this guy, but he says he's licensed. If you want to confirm, you can just call me and I can check the list and make sure that he is licensed. So that is a big problem in the city, unlicensed electrical work. And then once they're all done, they need to be inspected by a certified inspector. This picture right here, we took this about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and we don't actually know what caused this to happen. But I know it's kind of hard to see in the picture. I should have zoomed in a little better, but this line right here, this is the main service line coming in from the meter. And this is the main breaker at the top. So something happened and it blew this whole thing apart and it melted the wires, the service line wires, melted all these wires inside the box, and then some right above it as well. We're lucky that this didn't cause an actual structure fire. I think what happened was when this service line grounded out and it actually melted the wires apart, it disconnected from the box and it melted them so far back that they weren't fused together. So these people got very, very lucky, but these are just the weird things that happen. There was nothing really improper about the installation here. And we don't know if that breaker failed or we really don't know for sure what happened, but these are weird things that can happen. So it's really important that we pay extra close attention to electrical issues that we have in the house. There's a couple more pictures I've taken. These are just code violation things. These weren't actually from fires. But if you see here on the left-hand picture that, you got an open junction box right there. This person's house, she had a bunch of kids running around in the house. And this is probably this box right here that's not covered is probably 2 feet or so off the ground. Any box, and you can see in the right one here, this is an open junction box too. Any box really needs to have a cover on it. And the light switches here, they aren't even in boxes. They actually mounted them right to this piece of drywall. So This stuff is really dangerous, and there's a lot of it out there, which kind of gives us, this is why we're here as a fire department and fire code inspections and things of that nature. This one on the left here, that's just an outlet that there is some type of electrical issue in that building, and it caused the receptacle there to burn. And then the one on the right here, these are things we don't like to see. These are big time code violations. This extension cord on the right was run out of a second story apartment and run down to, and I'm not sure what that lamp cord right there plugs into, but again, if you need power somewhere, get somebody to do the work properly, inspected, all that stuff. We don't want to show up at your house for a structure fire. CO and smoke, excuse me. CO and smoke alarms. So 17% of home fire deaths occur due to non-functioning smoke alarms. Now, we've all heard the campaigns. When you turn your clocks back or you turn your clocks forward, you should check the batteries in your smoke alarms. New code requires that they be hardwired, that they be interconnected with each other. Again, we all live in houses, not all of us, but a majority of us live in houses that wasn't the code at the time. So that's why the battery operated ones still exist. But nowadays they have the fancy sealed lithium battery smoke alarms, and you don't even have to change the batteries in them. We still ask that you test them every 6 months. They're supposed to be good for 10 years, but who knows? But it makes it that much easier. And a lot of them now, actually the ones I have in my house was built in 1984. And I had some hardwired smoke alarms, but they weren't connected to each other because that wasn't the code back then. So what I did is were they about $50 a piece, but they're battery operated, but they're interconnected and they're wireless. So you put all the smoke alarms next to each other and you do this certain sequence. It's very simple to do, but it's in the instructions, but you actually connect them to each other wirelessly. So if the one in the basement goes off, the other ones throughout the house will go off as well. And that's really the best way we can do it, is to have them interconnected. But even if they aren't connected, at least let's make sure that they're working. So the smoke usually kills before the fire. Most fatal fires we have, 99.99% of them, all the toxic fumes in the fire will actually kill you before the fire itself does. Then carbon monoxide. Back in 2017, it was required by New York State, even in existing buildings, all commercial, all residential buildings need to have CO alarms as well. So smoke and CO. That's when they started coming out with the combo units that do both smoke and CO. And again, the wireless ones I just mentioned a minute ago, those are the ones that I have in my house. They do CO and smoke. But CO is an odorless, colorless gas. The thing is with the gas itself, carbon monoxide, is odorless and you can't smell it. But sometimes you get a whiff of like gas burning exhaust, like if it's a malfunctioning vent. Sorry, my phone's ringing here. Like a venting on a hot water heater is bad or something. You kind of get a whiff of something. It's not actually the carbon monoxide that you're smelling. They're the aldehydes that are in there are other types of gases that are in there, as well as the CO. And it's kind of an indicator that if you smell the aldehydes, you probably have CO as well. So just keep that in mind, but it is colorless, odorless gas. So the concern is that you might go to sleep at night and your house starts filling up with carbon monoxide and you just won't wake up. It'll actually kill you in your sleep. So that's what we're trying to avoid. Where do we put the detectors? They should be inside and outside of each bedroom. And the reason for that is if the fire starts in the bedroom, obviously it's going to alert you. If the fire starts in another part of the house and the smoke starts working its way down the hallway, you're going to be notified before it even gets to your bedroom while you're sleeping. So again, inside and outside of each bedroom, and at least one on each floor of your house. So you have a 3-story house, all the bedrooms are on the top floor, no problem. Put them inside, outside the bedrooms, and then at least one on each floor below that. The exception to the carbon monoxide alarms is that if your building the actual structure itself has no gas coming into it, you do not need a CO alarm. But that's not just your apartment. If you live in an apartment building that has electric heat, that doesn't mean gas isn't coming into your building. So it's something for you to ask, maintenance people if you live in an apartment building, whatever. If there's gas to the building, each unit has to have CO alarms. And then I already talked about the 10-year sealed ones. But if you have the battery operated ones still where you can change them every 6 months, change the batteries, give it a test, hit the button on there. And for anybody who's a city resident, we partnered with FEMA and the Chautauqua Safety Village. I'm not sure if you saw our Post Journal article a couple months ago. We were actually getting on a grant, we're getting boxes of smoke alarms for city residents. All you have to do is call me and we'll schedule a time. I'll come to your house. I'll test your existing smoke alarms, and wherever you're lacking any alarms, say you should have one in another place, I'll give them to you. It's free. It's kind of a service we provide, and it's grant funded by FEMA in partnership with the Safety Village. If you don't live in the city, you can still contact the Safety Village, and they have them as well. And they do everything outside of the city. So feel free to reach out to me about that if you are in need of some smoke alarms. We don't have CO alarms. The next grant that we just applied for, we did include a line item for CO alarms as well. So we're still throwing around the idea of putting the combo units in. So that might be something that's coming in the future, but for now they are just the 10-year sealed battery smoke alarms. Gas stoves. So some concerns we might have with gas stoves, of course, is fire and the gas being left on. For those of you with little ones running around, I always taught my kids early on, like, don't touch the stove. You accidentally turn around a little ways, your house starts to fill up with gas, whether it be propane or natural gas, and that's how explosions can happen. So be mindful of that. Any kind of grease fire, you don't want to pour water on it. I'm sure you guys have all heard this before, but you don't want to pour water on it. You can pour salt on it or baking soda, or cover the pot with a lid. As far as that goes, that if you're comfortable doing so, because we stress to you, step one should be get out of the house. If there's a fire, get out of the house, call 911, get out of the house. If it's something that you think you can manage, just like this picture here, feel free to do so, but you're not wrong to say, nope, I'm not touching it. I'm going outside, I'm calling 911. That's totally okay too. In the city, our response time is something to the effect of 3 minutes from when you call 911 to when we're there. So, keep that in mind if you're living in the city. Kind of back to the electrical thing a little bit. I wanted to add this slide in there because overloaded outlets, especially around the holidays, and I know we're kind of now just getting past that point, but I mean, we see a lot of overloaded circuits in this picture right here to the right. I mean, we have those splitters, which I'm not a big fan of, that turns 2 into 6 outlets and all that. And if they're UL listed, okay. But some of you may be familiar with wattage and amperage and that kind of stuff in your houses. Some of you may not, and that's okay. But generally speaking, most receptacles in a house, each circuit is designed on a 15 amp circuit. So it's a certain size wire that goes to those. And they can only handle at max 1800 watts. And I don't want to turn this into an electrical lesson. I'm not a pro by any means either, but these are things you need to take into consideration once you start loading up outlets and receptacles. If you have something like an electric space heater, it says 1,000 watt electric space heater, you plug that thing in, well, now you're down, you only got 800 watts on that entire circuit that you can plug back in. So you start loading lights and space heaters and Instant Pots and air fryers, and I'm thinking about the things in my house. And you start loading all those things up on one circuit, it's gonna hopefully trip the breaker, but it causes a lot of heat. So the breaker's not gonna trip until things start being a real big draw and heat's created. So where's the weakest point in that circuit? Is it gonna get too hot before the breaker trips, or is the breaker not gonna trip because it's an old system and maybe it's not functioning properly. That's what can cause electrical fires. So a 15 amp is normally what a normal circuit would be rated for. Some are 20 amp circuits. I might have one here, actually. I'm sorry, I'm not better prepared. I didn't think about this. If you see a receptacle like this, with this little thing jotted off to the side, that's usually a 20 amp circuit, meaning that you have a little bit more room on that line that you can plug stuff into. But 2,400 watts is really a lot. I mean, I don't even know what's gonna suck that much juice. Usually like a refrigerator or a microwave or a furnace, those things are independently wired. But again, I'm sorry to just keep rambling on here, but these are the things for you guys to just keep in mind. Don't plug in too much stuff to your outlets, and that's why. Means of egress is another big problem that we see. We respond to a lot of EMS calls, fire calls, all kinds of stuff. But these are things that we note when, sorry, somebody really wants to talk to me. These are things that we see out on calls that are really major fire hazards. Not because this is going to cause a fire, but if a fire were to break out, this is going to hinder you from getting out. This picture on the left here is a fire escape on the backside of an apartment building. I mean, you're going to have to climb over all this garbage at the bottom of the stairs to get out of your house. This one right here in the middle, this is an apartment building this 2x4 that's got a ledger board onto the brick here. That's actually holding up the fire escape. It's a scary one that's out there, but this board here in the middle and all this junk that's in the way, this is their means of egress. The one on the right here was an apartment. Just got to move my windows around a little bit. Sorry. This is just one of the many, many apartments that we've been in that there's hoarders in, and they just keep piling stuff up, and more stuff. And they make it nearly impossible for us to get in there, for one. Two, more difficult for you to get out. And three, that's a lot of fire load right there. If there's a fire, there's an electric baseboard heater maybe that runs behind on this wall. If this stuff catches on fire, it's going to get real hot, real fast, and you're not going to be able to get out. And our response time, like I said, is 3 minutes, but this stuff can really get going really quick. All right. Fire extinguishers. The thing is with fire extinguishers, there's different schools of thought. Are you comfortable in trying to extinguish a fire? Again, kind of like the kitchen fire that I mentioned earlier. If you're not comfortable with trying to operate a fire extinguisher and trying to extinguish that fire before we get there, just don't try. There's nothing in the fire code that says a residential structure has to have a fire extinguisher. Now, I'm not knocking them. If you're comfortable in attempting that, by all means. They sell them. You can get small little residential fire extinguishers at Walmart or Home Depot, Amazon, wherever it is. The ones that we carry and the ones that are required in commercial buildings and businesses are going to have a tag, which you can kind of see the tag right here. Every year it has to be certified by, and the only people that do it around here in the Jamestown area is Allen Fire Equipment up in Lakewood. They're generally who we use. There's plenty of options out there, people coming from Buffalo and Erie and that, but they do need to be checked once a year. So if you're a business owner, take a look at these tags, because this is part of my fire safety inspection. If I come to your business, this is one of the main things I look for, and the tag's only good for 1 year. The reason it's for 1 year is because there's certain hydrostatic test dates. Old extinguishers that actually need to be put in a machine and pressure tested to make sure that they're not going to explode. And I think it's every 10 years. But that's why we rely on Allen. We don't do the actual inspections on the extinguishers themselves. We just check to make sure that they've been tagged by somebody like Allen. He has all the equipment to do all that stuff. So again, if you're comfortable with trying to fight the fire, get a fire extinguisher. If you would like me to come talk to you and I'll show you how the thing works, by all means, give me a call. I'd be happy to do that. But the acronym here is PASS. So if you do choose to use it, you want to pull the pin. I should have got a better picture for this. I'm sorry, guys. There's a pin right up here by the handle. You want to pull that pin out, aim the nozzle at the base of the fire, not at the flames on the top, but at the base. Squeeze the trigger and then sweep across the base. You're going back and forth across the base of the fire. So again, if that's something you're comfortable with. We don't usually teach kids, young kids at least, how to operate fire extinguishers. They think they're fun, and they can be. The water cannons that we have, they're easy. We can refill them ourselves, and the kids will come out and spray them. But we don't want kids trying to fight a fire. We just want to teach kids, get out of the house. So that is my presentation. Here's my contact information. This is my office number. My email is just Smith, SMITH, at jamestowny.gov. Feel free to send me an email, call me if you have any questions about anything, or if you need smoke alarms, any of that stuff, I welcome it anytime. So thank you for your time. It was nice to meet you all. I prefer face-to-face. This Zoom thing, we've been doing it for a year now. And I can't get, I don't love it. It works. I'm glad the technology exists so we can actually meet, each other and do these things. But at any point, once you start gathering again, and if you want, I'd be happy to come and do a face-to-face presentation on whatever it is you like.
Thank you, Rob.
You're very welcome. Do I need to give you back?
If you stop sharing your screen, we'll be able to see everybody's face. Does anybody have any questions for Rob?
I do, Joni.
Okay, Mark, go.
Thanks, Rob, for coming on to talk. You did a great presentation. I'm just wondering how many actual structure fires the fire department fights each year. And my second question is, I know there's a lot of properties in Jamestown that are condemned or in bad shape. I'm wondering if they have a different way of approaching fighting those fires of houses that might actually be scheduled for demolition and that kind of thing. Thanks again.
Sure. Thank you. Thanks for the question. That is an excellent question. So just for some statistics here for you, 2020, we had 50 actual fires. So 50 this year, 46 last year, and the year before was 66. So it kind of hovers in between 60 and 50. It kind of goes in the graph. So that's how many actual fires we had in the city. We ran over 7,000 calls last year. So you can see that a lot of what we do is EMS. But yes, so we had 50 building fires last year. As far as the condemned buildings and that go, you've all seen the orange signs that we put up on the houses that are condemned for this reason and that reason and the other. It depends. So we are actually in the process of developing a new notification sign. What we wanted to do was make them color coded. All we have now for condemned signs are the orange ones. So if the fire department, pulls up to whatever the address is and we see an orange sign, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's structurally unsound or that there's holes in the floor or anything like that. It could be infested because there was, could be condemned because it was infested with bugs. That's a reason for condemnation. So what we're doing as a city right now is redesigning our signs and how we're deploying them. They'll be color coded. So like, just for example, a red one would probably mean structurally unsound. And we more than likely wouldn't go inside. Sometimes we get dispatched to these fires where there's squatters, and especially the last 12 months, we haven't had housing court. Landlords can't evict tenants. There's a lot of squatting going on around the city. And it's a real problem right now. So we'll be dispatched to a structure fire, and the call will come in and saying, well, I know I've seen people in there before. So we get told there's possible entrapment. So we have to go inside, and we will, if there's a report of somebody being inside. So does that answer your question, Mark? All right, thank you. Anybody else?
I have a question.
Sure.
About LED Christmas lights. Are they any safer if you plug them into extension cords?
I love LED lights. I am kind of a energy usage Lunatic. Quick story. I got a $220 electric bill one month. And I'm like, what is going on in my house? So I bought a meter. They actually plugs into your breaker box, and I could pull up the app on my phone right now and tell you how many watts my house is drawing right now. So I would go around the house with the app open, and I'd turn on the dryer, and I'd be like, oh my gosh, it's 2,000 watts on my dryer. So I had to switch to a gas dryer because of that, because the electric, I'm like, no way, I'm on National Grid. But what I did, so because of that app and that device that I bought, I was able to kind of single out usage in my house. And I switched everything in my house over to LED because gosh, they're so cheap nowadays. And so the draw is significantly less, and the heat, they generate virtually no heat in comparison to an incandescent bulb. So as far as the Christmas lights, the LED Christmas lights go, again, you'd have to figure out the wattage on them. But just for example, a regular incandescent bulb, which I don't even know if you can buy them anymore, would be, say, 60 watts or 60. You'll see 60 watt equivalent on the fluorescent ones, the ones with a little spirally tube on them. The LED ones of that same intensity light are 9 watts. So that's how much more efficient LED technology is. So if you're, let's just say your Christmas lights that are regular incandescent, little ones, they're going to generate heat, and there's going to be a wattage on the packaging. It's going to say how many watts that's drawing. If you look at the LED one, it'll tell you the wattage as well. And again, you know, you got that generally 1,800 watts that can be drawn off a 15 amp circuit. So you could probably get away with plugging more Christmas lights into one circuit if they're LED, but just be careful, just be cautious of the wattage draw for each line. Does that answer your question?
Hello.
Sorry, I had to find you on the screen. There's so many.
I know.
Good question.
Well, I'm having connection issues where I'm at. Good thing I'm on my phone. So I'm going to pull this to a close before everything just winks out.
Okay.
Thank you, Rob. It's very interesting. Thank you, Stacy, for lining them up.
Steve had his hand up.
What's that?
There's a couple questions.
Steve had his hand up. Steve Sanford.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't have any pictures.
Just a quick question. What are the requirements for people who want to build a fire in a fire pit on their patio?
Oh, I'm glad you asked that question, mister. So it's in the city, recreational fires are not legal. Cooking fires are. So if you were to have a fire that you're cooking, hot dogs, s'mores, I don't care what it is, if you're cooking something, totally legal. This is what happens in the city. A lot of neighbor complaints. They say, my neighbor's having a fire and I don't like it. There's nothing in our city charter that says anything about smoke as a nuisance. So we can't enforce that. The Department of the Environmental Conservation, the DEC, they do have certain statutes that talk about smoke as a nuisance. And I could feel for you if you're the complainant or if you're trying to have a fire. I can feel for both of you. I enjoy a fire myself. I could appreciate if smoke was coming into my house from my neighbor's fire. I probably wouldn't be happy about it either. But there's nothing we can do as the city to enforce that. But again, if you want to have a fire and you're going to cook on it, no problem. What I would recommend to anybody, if you want to have some type of recreational fire in the city, the only real legal way to do that is if you get a gas-fired one. They have really nice gas-fired recreational fire pits that you can get. And we may show up, and that's for everybody here. If we are ever at your house for a fire, a recreational fire or cooking fire, it's not because we drive around looking for them. It's because somebody called and complained. So we try not to give anybody a hard time, but what we see a lot of is we'll go out on these calls and somebody's burning the insulation off electrical wires. Well, yeah, you get a big cloud of black smoke and you're polluting the environment, you're polluting your neighbor's house. It's illegal in the city. So those are really the troublemakers that we go to. But again, if you want to have a fire, make sure you're cooking on it or get one of the gas-fired ones. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
I just wanted to make a quick comment. I know you're trying to get out of here, Jody, but
No, it's okay.
Joni, I said Jody, I'm sorry. Amy, yes,
I've heard
please unplug
worse.
all your extension cords. Chris, thank you. Mike Bird, yes. So if you're gonna grow, you have to have an expert wire your grow room. Yes, Mr. Bird. I think I worked with your kid. I don't see if he's not, is he still not there?
Yeah, he's right there.
Yeah, you do. It's Gage.
Gage? So
Yes.
your Gage's dad. Okay, I
Yeah.
thought so when I saw your name. So it's good to meet you.
Yeah, you too. That's what Gage actually told me about the grill room, so you have to ask him about that. So.
Oh, okay. Was it his house? I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Yep. So Noah, thank you. Thank you guys. Yeah, that's all the questions in here. So any other questions?
Well, we appreciate your department's work and your work in particular, keeping us safe. And all this information is really interesting. And thank you again for your dedication to Jamestown. There's going to be a donation made in your name to the Rotary Foundation Polio Plus Fund. One of the main thing Rotary International does is trying for years, for decades, we've been trying to eradicate polio around the world, and we're getting close. So a donation will be made in your honor.
Thank you. That's very nice. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Next Monday, we'll be hearing from the St. Susan Soup Kitchen director. So that'll be interesting too.
And Joni,
Right,
that's
Stacy?
off. It's off now. I'll let you
That's
know
off
who's
now.
coming.
Okay, well, it's going to be a mystery guest next week.
It'll be
It's going
fun.
to be exciting.
No worries.
It'll be fun. You don't have to dress up.
Yeah.
Remember, Rotary opens opportunities. And so what opportunities are you going to see this week, and how can you make your community a better place? And with that, we thank you, and we're adjourned.
Thanks, Rob.
Nice.
Have a
Yep.
good week.
You're very welcome anytime. It's nice to meet you all.
Thank you, Rob.